know that feeling when everything looks fine on the outside, but inside, it's like, wait, why am I always stressed about money? You've got the job, maybe even the promotion, the house, the decent car, the retirement account getting little bits tossed in. On paper, you're doing great. So why does it still feel like you're barely holding it together? That's the weird part. A lot of people in their 30s and 40s aren't failing because they're reckless. They're getting squeezed by choices that looked smart at the time. The kind of choices everyone else was making too. The kind that feel responsible, grown up, even impressive, until they quietly eat your cash every single month. And no, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff, like maxing out credit cards on shopping sprees or doing something obviously dumb. I'm talking about the sneaky traps. The ones that look like adulthood but act like a drain. The ones that can mess with your future without you even noticing right away. So let's get into it, babe. First up is the big one. Buying more house than you can comfortably handle. I know, the bank approved you, the lender gave you a number, and when a bank says yes, it's really tempting to believe that means you're good. But their version of affordable is not the same as real life. They're not looking at your daycare bill. They're not thinking about birthdays, school supplies, repairs, vacations, or the fact that, you'd maybe like to save for retirement before you're 57. They're only looking at the maximum you can technically pay without immediately blowing up. And the numbers are honestly brutal. Owning a median-priced home is now eating up nearly 48% of the median household income. That's almost half your money going to one thing. Traditional affordability says housing should be around 30%. We're way past that. It gets worse. In 2025, nearly 75% of American households can't afford a medium-priced new home. And if you make $100,000, which sounds solid, you can only afford 37% of listings. Back in 2019, that same income could reach 65% of listings. So, yeah, middle-income families have gotten squeezed hard. Here's how this trap works in real life. You stretch for the bigger place because it feels like the right move. Bigger kitchen, extra bedroom, yard for the kids, all of it. Cute, right? Until the mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities hit. Then, suddenly you're house-rich and cash-poor. Every surprise expense feels like a mini emergency. Saving gets harder. Investing gets pushed off. And your life starts feeling expensive in the worst way. A smarter move? Way below the top of what you're approved for. Like seriously below. Leave yourself room. Because a smaller home with breathing room beats a bigger home with constant financial panic every time. Next trap, the car payment spiral. This one is so common it barely even feels like a trap anymore. It feels normal. But in 2026, the average monthly payment on a new car is $772. Yeah, a car payment that looks like a second rent check. And more than 20% of new car buyers are now taking on monthly payments above $1,000. Even crazier, 22% of borrowers are going for 84-month loans just to make the payment look less painful. That's 7 years of paying for something that loses value while you sleep. Let's make it real. If you're paying $750 a month, that's $9,000 a year. On a 6-year loan, you'll hand over about $54,000, and the car might only be worth $15,000 to $20,000 by the end. So a huge chunk disappears into depreciation. And that's before insurance, which averages around $225 a month for full coverage, plus gas, maintenance, and repairs. Now compare that to buying a solid used car for $15,000 cash, or financing something much cheaper for 3 years, at around $300 a month. The gap, about $450 a month, if invested in an index fund earning 8% over 30 years, could grow to more than $670,000. That's the part people forget. Every expensive car is a trade. You're swapping future wealth for present comfort. Which, okay, if that's your choice, fine. Just make it with your eyes open. And this trap gets worse in your 30s and 40s because that's when income starts rising, and lifestyle creep starts whispering in your ear. You got a raise, so now you deserve the nicer trim. You got promoted, so the SUV suddenly makes sense. Your friend got a shiny new ride, so now your car feels old. It's all very subtle, very polished, and very expensive. Now let's talk about childcare, because this one is not cute. The average cost of daycare in the US is more than $17,000 a year for one infant. In places like Massachusetts or Washington, D.C., it can be over $24,000. If you've got 2 kids, 1 infant and 1 toddler, the national average jumps to about $28,000 a year. And for some families, that's more than rent. Care.com found that childcare takes up around 20% of household income for many parents. Adding caregiving for aging parents, pets, and all the little support costs of running a household, and the average family can spend 37% of income on care-related expenses. That is a massive squeeze. The trap isn't childcare itself. You need it. The trap is not planning for it early enough when making other decisions. People buy the bigger house, lease the nicer car, and then realize they can't afford quality childcare. Or they can afford childcare, but that's it. No savings. No investing. No cushion. Just vibes and panic. If kids are even on the horizon for you, bake childcare into your housing choice, your car choice, and your whole budget. For 5 or 6 years per child, this cost can dominate your life. Plan for it before you lock in the rest of your expenses. Now we've got lifestyle inflation. And honestly, this one feels the most harmless at first. It starts with a raise. You were making $50,000. Now you make $90,000. Huge jump, right? But somehow your savings didn't jump with it. In fact, maybe they barely moved at all. So where did the money go? Everywhere. The nicer apartment turned into a house. The regular car turned into a fancier one. Dinner out became the default. Subscriptions multiplied like rabbits. The phone got upgraded every year. Flights got more comfortable. Vacations got more elaborate. The spending kept climbing because each little upgrade felt reasonable on its own. And to be fair, yeah, you worked hard. You did earn more. You do deserve nice things. But that's exactly why this trap is so slippery. It doesn't feel like bad behavior. It feels like reward. The result? Your expenses rise right alongside your income, and you end up with the same amount of breathing room you had when you made way less. Research shows that real wages for middle-class Americans have only risen about 12% over the past 2 decades, even though nominal wages nearly doubled. Why? Because costs keep rising, especially housing, healthcare, education, and childcare. Then whatever's left gets eaten by the lifestyle upgrade machine. The fix is simple in theory and a little annoying in practice. Decide ahead of time how much of each raise goes to your life now and how much goes to your future. A solid split is 50% to savings or debt payoff, 50% to lifestyle. That way you get to enjoy the win without leaking all of it. Trap number 5 is debt normalization. This one is sneaky because it's everywhere. Americans carry $18.80 trillion in consumer debt. The average household has over $15,000 in debt. Gen X, which is basically the mid-40s to late 50s crowd right now, holds the highest debt load of any generation. And people ages 40 to 49 carry $4.80 trillion in total debt, which is more than any other age group. Wild, right? And because everybody's doing it, it starts feeling normal. Everyone has a mortgage. Everyone has a car payment. Most people have some credit card balance hanging around. Student loans don't always end at graduation. Sometimes they just keep tagging along into your 40s and 50s like an unwelcome +1. But debt has a cost that keeps growing. Credit card interest rates are over 20% on average. So if you're carrying a $6,000 balance and just making minimum payments, you can stay stuck for years and pay thousands in interest. Meanwhile, that same money could have been invested. That's the real issue. The trap is not just the debt itself. It's believing debt is so universal that it must be fine. Nope, just because it's common doesn't mean it's healthy. High interest debt should be treated like an emergency, not like a long-term lifestyle. Every dollar of interest is a dollar that isn't building your future. Trap 6 is retirement procrastination. And yes, I know you've heard this one before. Compound interest is powerful. You've seen the charts. You get it. But understanding the math is not the same as doing the thing. Right now, 54% of American households have no dedicated retirement savings. The median retirement balance for people ages 55 to 64 is only $185,000. That sounds decent until you remit, and then you will see everything will come to the wreck. Here's the pattern. In your 30s, retirement feels far away. So you prioritize the house, the wedding, the student loans, the childcare. You tell yourself you'll catch up later. In your 40s, you realize you're behind, but now your expenses are bigger, and maybe college savings is staring at you from the corner. So you say you'll catch up in your 50s. Then your 50s arrive and the math gets rude. To make up for lost time, you'd need to save 30% or more of your income. Most people can't swing that. The tax code does offer some help, though. In 2026, you can put up to $24,500 into a 401k, plus an $8,000 catch-up contribution if you're over 50. And if you're between 60 and 63, there's a super catch-up of $11,250 extra. But none of that matters if you don't actually use it. If you want the minimum solid retirement setup in your 30s and 40s, here it is. Contribute at least enough to get the full employer match, then max a Roth IRA at $7,500, and automate both so the money disappears before you can spend it. If that feels tight, cut something else. Future you will be very into that decision. Trap 7 is suburban sprawl. This one sits right at the overlap of housing and transportation, and it gets people all the time. You buy the cheaper house farther out, thinking you're saving money. But now the commute is longer, which means more gas, more maintenance, more insurance, and usually more stress. You may even need 2 cars instead of 1. Then you're spending more time driving, which means less time for side income, less time with your family, and less time with your sanity intact. Honestly, people massively underestimate the real cost of commuting. It's not just fuel and repairs. It's the hours of your life, the wear on your body, the strain on your relationships, and the hidden spending that comes with living farther away from everything. A house that's $50,000 cheaper but adds an hour each way to your commute might end up costing more over time than the place closer to work. So when you're comparing homes, don't just look at the mortgage. Add up the cars, the gas, the insurance, the maintenance, and your time. Then compare that with the cost of living in a spot that lets you get by with 1 car, or maybe even none. Trap 8 is keeping up with your income peers. This one is so emotional because it sneaks into your brain without asking. When you were making $40,000, your friends were probably in a similar lane. But in your 30s and 40s, people's incomes start splitting off in all directions. Some are making twice what you do. Some are making less. Yet somehow the social pressure stays the same. Your neighbor gets a Tesla. A coworker casually mentions a European vacation. An old college friend buys a lake house. And suddenly your brain starts building a case for why you need to match that energy. But you don't know their real story. Maybe they inherited money. Maybe they're carrying massive debt. Maybe their partner earns triple what your partner earns. You're looking at the surface, not the full balance sheet. That's why comparison is such a trap. It disconnects spending from reality. The only comparison that matters is you versus your own goals. If you're on track, other people's spending is noise. If you're not on track, copying them definitely won't help. Cute car, though. Still not worth your future. Trap 9 is perfect timing. This one sounds smart, which is exactly why it works. I'll invest when the market drops. I'll buy when housing cools off. I'll ask for the raise when the company is in a better place. I'll save more once I make more. That's not strategy. That's delay wearing a nice outfit. Perfect conditions almost never show up. And even when they do, there's always another reason to hesitate. The market falls, but now you're nervous. Home prices cool, but now you're worried about your job. Business improves, but now your expectations rise too. The finish line keeps moving. Time in the market beats trying to time the market. Starting now, even if things are messy, is better than waiting for some magical moment that may never come. The best time to start was years ago. The next best time is today.
Oh, yes. That old line is still true. Trap 10 is the busy trap, and this one is probably the most dangerous because it hides behind productivity.
You're working, commuting, parenting, cleaning, managing, answering texts, putting out fires, and somehow the finances just keep running on autopilot. You never sit down and actually check whether you're on track. You don't compare insurance. You don't review investments. You don't ask for the raise. You don't look for a better job. You're busy, so you stay in default mode. And that's how money leaks happen. Not from one giant mistake, but from never giving yourself enough space to notice what's broken. Busy is not a flex if it keeps you from managing the one resource that affects everything else. So make time, quarterly if you can, to review your finances. Put it on the calendar like a real appointment. 1 hour of attention can save you thousands. Easily. Here's the scary part. These traps don't usually happen one at a time. They stack. You buy the bigger house, which pushes you farther from work. That longer commute means you need more car. More car means more payments and more insurance. All that pressure makes lifestyle inflation feel justified. Then there's nothing left for retirement. And because you're juggling housing, transportation, and childcare, you're too busy to notice the damage until it's already piled up. That's why the answer isn't just avoiding one bad choice. It's understanding how every big decision touches the others. The house you choose affects the car you need. The car you choose affects your childcare budget. Childcare affects what's left for investing. It's all connected, babe. People who build wealth in their 30s and 40s usually aren't playing some secret genius game. They're just more intentional. They leave room in the budget. They choose flexibility over status. They think through the chain reaction before they commit. And if you avoid these traps, life looks a lot different. You buy a home you can breathe in. You drive a reliable used car and invest the difference. You plan for childcare before everything else is locked in. You save a good chunk of every raise. You attack high-interest debt instead of pretending it's fine. You start retirement contributions early and let compounding do its thing. You live close enough to work that transportation doesn't eat your future. You stop comparing yourself to everybody else. You stop waiting for perfect. You make time to think about money, even when life is loud. That's when you stop treading water and start actually moving forward. And let me say this clearly. These traps are not proof that you're bad with money. They're built into the environment. Banks make money when you borrow more. Dealers make money when you finance more. The whole consumer system is designed to grab your income before you can save it. You're not broken. You're being marketed to in a world that loves your paycheck more than your peace. Once you see that, you can make different choices. You can stop walking toward the cracks. If you're in your 30s, you still have time. Use it. Start now, even if it's small. Build the habits that grow over decades. If you're in your 40s, you still have time too, just less of it. Be more aggressive. Train what doesn't matter. Max out retirement if you can. Put wealth building ahead of looking rich. The traps are real, but so is the way around them. You just have to choose it.